Let's go take a look at that.
Let's drill it.
Beautiful. There's something right there.
Nice little signal here. Sounds good.
I think we have another stake.
Steak? Oh, look at that.
We're looking for a big flat stone.
Something has gone horribly wrong on Oak Island. For the first time in history, U.S. officials moved in overnight, sealing off the causeway, surrounding the island with federal teams, and issuing a quiet but unmistakable quarantine order. No one is allowed in. No one is allowed out. And every researcher, contractor, and treasure hunter working with the Laguna team has been forced into silence. But what could possibly justify this level of sudden, aggressive intervention? Witnesses reported emergency lights flashing long after midnight. Others claim they saw strange crates being rushed off-site under heavy guard. And the biggest question spreading like wildfire across the world is simple. What did they find that terrified the government enough to shut down an entire island? This wasn't a drill, and it wasn't a precaution. Something was discovered deep beneath the money pit. Something so startling, so dangerous, and so historically explosive that the authorities snapped into action before the public could even ask questions. Rumors are swirling about a sealed chamber cracked open during the latest dig. Some say it released something unexpected, something Oak Island was never meant to reveal. The silence from officials is making the truth even more unsettling. Whatever was uncovered down there has changed the entire investigation and possibly rewritten everything we thought we knew about Oak Island's past. Tonight, we are breaking down every detail, every eyewitness account, every leak, and every clue the government didn't want you to see. From the shutdown to the terrifying artifact reportedly unearthed, this is the most shocking chapter in Oak Island's history, and the one the world deserves to understand. So sit tight, stay alert, and prepare yourself for a story that spirals far beyond treasure hunting and into something far darker. And before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications, because the truth coming out of Oak Island is unfolding fast, and you don't want to miss a single update as this unbelievable story continues to break. It all began with a single convoy appearing on the causeway just past midnight. No warnings, no public statements, no explanation. Locals who lived close enough to see the shoreline initially thought it was a late-night filming crew arriving on Oak Island. But as the faint headlights multiplied, stretching into a long line of black SUVs and government trucks, it became clear that something far more serious was unfolding. According to witnesses, the vehicles moved with surgical precision, each one stopping at designated points as officers stepped out and immediately began sealing off every access road leading to the island. Within minutes, the peaceful Nova Scotia coastline transformed into a controlled zone. Red and blue lights flashed against the trees, cutting through the darkness like alarm signals, while armed federal officers, some in plain clothes, others in unfamiliar tactical gear, formed a perimeter. People who approached were turned back without explanation. Even the locals who had lived through storms, evacuations, and previous Oak Island operations said they had never seen anything like this. As the night deepened, unease spread. The U.S. almost never intervened directly in Oak Island matters, especially without Canadian media catching wind of it. So why move with such speed? Why strike in total silence? That question lit up social media within minutes. What were they trying to contain before sunrise? Some speculated a major treasure find. Others whispered about a dangerous underground discovery, something unstable, toxic, or historically explosive. But no theory matched the tension in the air that night. Then came the detail that ignited the firestorm. A resident across the bay captured blurry footage of two large containers being moved off the island under heavy guard. They were metallic, sealed, and escorted by men wearing unmarked gear. No identifying logos, no agency tags, just silent shadows moving with urgency. Whatever was inside those containers was treated as if it could not be exposed, not even for a second. And the moment they disappeared into the convoy, the entire operation seemed to tighten even more. What disturbed locals most was not what they saw, but what they didn't. There was no official announcement, no emergency sirens, not even the usual warning signs posted after environmental incidents. The island went dark, the causeway shut down, and by sunrise, Oak Island had effectively been placed under quarantine. People woke up to barricades and men wearing earpieces patrolling the shoreline. Every attempt to ask questions was met with the same chilling phrase, "Area restricted. Do not approach." For treasure hunters, historians, and Oak Island fans around the world, the message was unmistakable. Something had been discovered. Something big enough, strange enough, or dangerous enough that the US government acted before dawn could break. And until the truth surfaced, all anyone could do was speculate. But the midnight shutdown was only the beginning, because hours before the quarantine, the Laguna crew cracked open something no one expected, something buried deep beneath the Earth's surface that set off this entire chain reaction. Now let's move into the next outline, the Forbidden Chamber, and uncover what the drilling team stumbled into that triggered this unprecedented lockdown. No one on Oak Island expected the drill run that morning to change the island's fate forever. The Laguna team had struck countless cavities, wooden platforms, and pockets of seawater over the years, but this chamber felt different from the very first moment the drill bit punched through the limestone. The sensors spiked, the pressure readings became unstable, and the sound, a hollow, aching groan, echoed from beneath the ground as if something ancient had been disturbed for the first time in centuries. Rick Laguna stared at the monitors, visibly shaken. The chamber their drill had pierced wasn't on any map, any archival record, or any historic theory. It wasn't natural, and it wasn't built with the primitive tools people assumed the early diggers had access to. But what frightened the team the most was the air sample. A strange black particulate misted through the core barrel, drifting like smoke, yet behaving like liquid. It clung to everything it touched. Within minutes, everything spiraled out of control. The team radioed for backup, but their voices cut out mid-sentence. Cameras flickered, turned static, and went black. The seismic equipment logged a burst of unknown energy, something that lasted only 0.6 seconds, but enough to trip alarms across 3 different systems. Marty Laguna shouted for everyone to clear the shaft, but by then, the damage had already been done. The question that still haunts officials is simple. What exactly was released when that ancient chamber cracked open? Was it a toxic gas sealed away by early builders, some kind of engineered trap? Or, according to a few terrified eyewitnesses, was it something far more disturbing? Something moving inside that darkness? What the public doesn't know is that the quarantine order came exactly 9 minutes after contact with the chamber was established. 9 minutes. The fastest government response Oak Island had ever seen. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a reaction. Something inside that chamber triggered a protocol no one on the island even knew existed. And as armored vehicles sealed the site and communication was shut down, one chilling rumor spread across the island. The chamber wasn't empty. Something was already waiting inside. But the real shock came not from what escaped the chamber, but from what the government recovered next, hidden deep beneath the island, something powerful enough to justify a total lockdown. In the days following the chamber breach, something unprecedented unfolded on Oak Island, something even veteran treasure hunters had never experienced before. The core crew, the same people who had spent years openly documenting every find for the world to see, suddenly vanished from the public eye. No press interviews, no behind-the-scenes briefings, not even casual updates on social media. It was as if the island had swallowed them whole. Rick, Marty, Jack, Alex, everyone who had been within 50 feet of the money pit when the chamber broke open, was pulled into what insiders are calling the circle. Phones were seized on the spot. Every device containing photos, videos, or audio logs was collected by federal agents. One crew member later whispered that the authorities didn't just want control, they wanted silence, total silence. Production vehicles were turned away at the gate. Scheduled History Channel interviews were abruptly cancelled without explanation. Even longtime friends of the team reported receiving strange, formal messages stating that communication was restricted until further notice. Within 24 hours, the entire Oak Island operation went dark. No live feeds, no recorded transmissions, not even a single emergency channel ping. The question now gripping the global Oak Island community is simple. What did the team witness inside the money pit that the authorities refused to let them talk about? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some say it was an artifact, something so advanced, so impossibly out of place, that the government invoked national security protocols. Others believe the team encountered a hazard sealed centuries ago by whoever built the island's dangerous network of traps. But the most chilling theory stems from a single leaked message, allegedly sent by a panicked team member before their phone was confiscated. It read, "We saw something down there, and I can't sleep. I'm terrified of what they made us uncover." No name was attached, no timestamp. But the fear in that line was unmistakable. It didn't read like a joke, or panic, or confusion. It read like someone who believed they had awakened something that should have stayed buried forever. As more sources come forward anonymously, whispers of hazmat suits, classified containers, and fragments of an object no one can identify, the silence of the team becomes even more disturbing. Because silence is one thing, fear is another. And yet, as the world questions what the team saw, a far more chilling question emerges about what the government took from Oak Island next. Beneath the tangled roots, collapsed tunnels, and centuries of failed treasure hunts, the Oak Island team uncovered something no one was prepared for, an object that defied every known timeline of human history. It was discovered in a chamber, lined with stone, so precisely cut it appeared machine-polished, buried deeper than any previous excavation had ever reached. The structure surrounding it was too perfect, too deliberate, too engineered for the medieval pirates or secret societies usually blamed for Oak Island's mysteries. The artifact itself was partially embedded in the floor, wrapped in a strange alloy that didn't match any metal known from the 1600s, or even the 1700s. Its edges were razor clean. Its geometry was impossibly accurate, crafted with precision tools that shouldn't have existed until the modern industrial age. Yet there it was, sealed beneath layers of engineering that suggested not just craftsmanship, but intention. When the team first uncovered it, they believed it might be a ceremonial object, perhaps tied to the Knights Templar theories long discussed. But once the dust settled and the harsh LED lights revealed its surface, that theory collapsed instantly. The alloy patterns didn't match Templar metallurgy. The engravings weren't medieval. The construction techniques weren't colonial. Someone, or something, had built this object with knowledge far beyond the era it supposedly came from. The government's reaction was immediate and aggressive. Within hours, agents arrived with containment crates lined with lead shielding. They didn't treat the artifact like treasure. They treated it like a threat. The team wasn't allowed to photograph it. No samples could be taken. Anyone who tried was escorted off the island and silenced under federal order. The burning question still haunts researchers and theorists around the world. Who built this, and why was it buried in total secrecy beneath Oak Island? Some believe the structure was part of a lost civilization, one whose technological capacity was wiped from history. Others whisper about ancient visitors, rival empires, or pre-Columbian explorers with knowledge centuries ahead of their time. But the most unsettling claim comes from a confidential source within the quarantine perimeter. They said the artifact was not from any known civilization, whether that means unknown humans, forgotten empires, or something entirely different. No one can say, or perhaps no one is allowed to say. One thing is certain: history as we know it cannot explain what Oak Island is hiding. And the deeper the authorities dig, the more the story drifts into territory far beyond archaeology. But while the artifact was shocking, what happened the moment it was removed from its ancient resting place pushed Oak Island into an even darker phase, triggering the most alarming event of the entire investigation. The moment the object was lifted from the stone cradle beneath Oak Island, the air changed. Crew members later described it as a vibration, not a sound, but a pressure deep inside their bones, as if the island itself exhaled after centuries of holding something in place. Instruments on the surface immediately went haywire. GPS units lost signal. Magnetometers spun into unreadable chaos. Even the simple handheld radios began emitting a low, pulsing hum no one had ever heard before. At first, the team assumed it was mechanical interference caused by moving the artifact. But then the temperature dropped, not gradually, instantly. Several team members reported seeing their breath fog in front of their faces, despite the warm coastal air. Animals on the far end of the island began fleeing into the woods. Even the tides around the swamp shifted unnaturally, pulling back as though repelled by something beneath the soil. Then came the strangest effect of all. A shimmering distortion appeared above the open chamber, like heat rising off asphalt, but reversed, cold bending the light instead of heat. Rick Lagina stared at it, frozen in place, insisting he felt something watching from within that distortion. Others backed away as their flashlights flickered and dimmed, not due to battery loss, but as if the darkness itself was swallowing the light. The government personnel reacted with terrifying speed. Sirens blared. Agents shouted for containment teams to suit up. A perimeter was redrawn, tripled in size, and sealed. Anyone who had been near the chamber during the phenomenon was immediately checked for unknown exposure. Some were rushed into quarantine tents. Others were escorted away under guard, never seen on the island again. What terrified the team most wasn't the cold, or the distortion, or the failing equipment. It was the artifact itself. The object that hours before had been dormant now emitted a faint, rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. Each pulse triggered a tremor through the chamber walls, a ripple that moved through the soil far deeper than the excavation site. Experts brought in under strict secrecy gave only one chilling explanation. The artifact wasn't just old, it was active. And if it was active, then the builders of Oak Island hadn't buried it as treasure. They buried it as containment. The phenomenon ended as suddenly as it began, but the damage was done. The island was locked down. The government classified the site, and Oak Island's mystery crossed the line from historical curiosity into something that felt dangerously alive. But the world would not know the truth until one final shocking revelation surfaced, something so massive it explains why the island was quarantined and what the authorities fear most. In the hours after the phenomenon subsided, the military presence on Oak Island exploded into something far larger and far more organized. Satellite uplinks were activated. Mobile command centers were rolled onto the island, and a thick, classified perimeter was drawn that even the Canadian government wasn't fully briefed on. That was the moment everyone realized the truth. Whatever Oak Island had unleashed was no longer just a local mystery. It had become an international emergency. Deep within the command tent, experts from multiple scientific fields examined the readings collected during the artifact's pulse. Seismologists, atmospheric analysts, historians, even specialists from agencies that typically never work together. Their findings were chilling. The pulse wasn't random. It was patterned, intelligent, and even worse, it had been detected in other parts of the world. Signals from deep ocean sensors in the Pacific, glacial resonance monitors in Antarctica, electromagnetic bursts recorded near ancient sites across Europe and North Africa, all showing the same tremor, the same heartbeat. It was as if the artifact on Oak Island had woken up others like it. This wasn't treasure. This wasn't history. This was something that had been hidden for a reason. Authorities feared the public could never understand the scale of what they were dealing with. A global network of devices, left behind by a civilization with knowledge far beyond recorded history, now returning to life for the first time in thousands of years. Some experts argued these objects were warnings. Others believed they were beacons. A few, the most terrified voices, insisted they were countdowns. The world came dangerously close to learning the truth when a leaked report reached foreign intelligence networks. The document claimed that Oak Island's artifact released a data burst into the atmosphere, encrypted, indecipherable, and directed off-planet. When officials confronted the author of that report, they found his workstation wiped, and he disappeared the next day. The question haunting world leaders is the same one tormenting the silenced Oak Island team. Did we uncover something meant to protect humanity, or something meant to summon its greatest threat? To prevent global panic, a coordinated blackout was enacted. News networks were instructed to bury the story under unrelated headlines. The island remains under quarantine, sealed by both Canadian and US forces, and every scientist who worked on the artifact has been transferred to secure, undisclosed facilities. But rumors persist, rumors of a final warning hidden within the artifact's pulse sequence. Do not unseal the others. If that message is real, then Oak Island was never about gold, treasure, or lost manuscripts. It was the first trigger in a chain of events that could reshape the fate of the entire planet. And somewhere out there, other ancient devices are waiting.